Hi guys, welcome to this video on the benefits of exercise. In this video we're going to think about why we should exercise and what the positive impacts of exercise are, both on the physical body but also social, economic and psychological benefits as well. Let's get started. So I'm going to begin by introducing you to this word, hypokinetic. Hypokinetic, and the word simply means, if we break it into its two parts, hypo means low and kinetic means movement, so low movement. So a hypokinetic disease is the kind of disease that comes about when we don't move enough. So as human beings, we have the capacity and the drive to move, and yet when we don't move, or therefore when we don't move, we begin to suffer or potentially become at risk of suffering a range of diseases. Another way of thinking about this is what we call sedentary lifestyle. So hypokinetic means low movement or little movement, and sedentary literally means sitting down. So a sedentary lifestyle is one where you basically do too much sitting down or not enough movement. And you know there are loads of negative outcomes from not doing enough exercise or not moving sufficiently enough during your life. Some of those things would include obesity, so the adding on of additional excess body weight from storage of fat, essentially, becoming obese. Another one would be coronary heart disease. So a sedentary lifestyle can lead to, or can be a factor in, producing coronary heart disease. So coronary heart disease is that disease that blocks the arteries of the heart itself and prevent the heart from functioning efficiently. We've also got type 2 diabetes. So again, diabetes is a disease that is a consequence, or at least in large proportion is a consequence of a sedentary lifestyle, not moving sufficiently. And so we can end up with or heading towards, or being at greater risk of, type 2 diabetes. Also, different types of cancers have been shown to be linked with not doing sufficient amounts of exercise. Now, of course, it's important to bear in mind that all of these things can be caused by other factors, and other factors do play a part in these things, and yet there is evidence that sedentary lifestyles are a risk factor for different kinds of hypokinetic diseases. And that's important to remember when we're talking about why it is that exercise is beneficial for us. So what are some of the physical benefits of exercise? Well, on the negative side of things that we, as a consequence of exercise, we can avoid, we'll say that there is the reduced risk of those diseases that we've just been talking about. So there's a reduced risk of hypokinetic disease. That's obvious, isn't it? If hypokinetic diseases are those diseases that come about by moving too little, if we start to move, then we're going to reduce the risk of those diseases. That's pretty plain. But there are also some positive, rather than just avoiding the negative, there are some positive benefits of exercise as well. For example, we can improve our posture and our overall body shape as a consequence of exercise. The strengthening of muscles, particularly around the spine, help our overall skeletal alignment, which then has a knock-on impact to avoiding things like lower back pain or pain in the hips and so on, and pain in the shoulders and that sort of thing, and neck pain. So improved posture is really a great benefit of doing a little more exercise, provided you're doing it safely and correctly, of course. But also body shape. And there's a sociological component here, which we're not going to get into in this video. I'm just going to simply say, and leave it hanging, that most people would think that an increased amount of exercise will move their body shape in a preferable direction. I'm going to leave it at that for now, because I know there are other issues to consider when it comes to body shape. Improved skeletal health is another major benefit. So this would include things like bone density. So our bone density increases as a consequence of doing lots of exercise, and that has then a knock-on impact to avoiding things like bone brittleness or osteoporosis, which, for example, afflicts mostly women in later life. And so improved skeletal health as a consequence of doing a little more exercise is going to have positive impacts in terms of bone density and so on. Improved cardiovascular health is also an important consideration. So cardiovascular health meaning the heart and the blood vessels become more efficient, are able to send more blood around the body with each beat and so on. And that's also very important in terms of the quality of the exercise that you're able to participate in, and leads to less risk of those diseases that we've mentioned in terms of coronary heart disease and so on, because we're keeping those arteries nice and healthy. And then finally, for physical benefits of exercise, we've got stronger respiratory system. So the respiratory muscles of the diaphragm and the rib cage, as well as the lungs themselves, become stronger and more able to supply the bloodstream, and from there to supply the working muscles and the body tissues with the oxygen that's required to first off to stay alive, and then later on to perform intense exercise. Well, there are also a whole series of wider benefits of exercise that don't specifically or directly just relate to the physical body. So we're going to look at 3 areas where exercise, broadly understood, can have a positive impact as well. And the first one of those areas is the social impact or the social benefit of exercise. Now, generally speaking, although it is possible to exercise on your own, and lots of people do, you know, if you're a runner or what have you, often that can be a lone pursuit, and that's fine. But a lot of sports and a lot of physical activities and a lot of games are played requiring opponents. And so therefore, potentially, as you engage with your opponents, potentially exercise gives you the opportunity to develop your social skills. It gives you the opportunity to talk to your opponents. Let's say you go once a week to play squash with somebody, and you go every week, and over time you build up a good relationship with that person. You're establishing a friendship, you're improving your social skills by talking to them, finding out about how they are and how their week's been and so on. So these are exercise benefits that don't relate directly to the physical body. Also, therefore, as a consequence of that, if you find yourself engaging with other people in society and engaging in a positive way, enjoying other people's company, having people enjoy your company especially, can contribute to an overall sense of self-esteem, feeling positive about yourself. And that's another wider benefit of exercise that doesn't come down to just the strength or health of your physical body. What other areas are there? Well, a second area outside of simply the physical body is the economic, the benefits to the economy of exercise. And there's lots of things we could talk about here, but let's just mention a couple. Employment and business benefits from exercise. How is that the case? Well, think about this. If you pay a monthly fee to go to a gym, you're not simply, or you're participating in an economy. You're not simply just giving that money to the gym owner who puts it in his or her pocket and walks away. That money is sustaining a whole economy. So somebody who owns the gym is also paying out money for somebody to come and clean the gym, and paying out money for someone to supply them with the latest equipment. Somebody has to be paid to come and build the thing in the first place, to lay the carpet, whatever it might be, to sort out the flooring, to make sure the latest chemicals are being used to clean the water in the pool, and all those sorts of things. We are creating a huge economy around the idea of exercise. And that's not a physical body benefit, but it is a benefit to the whole wider economy, which can be in part sustained through people engaging in exercise. Another positive impact on the economy is the fact that if we do have a larger proportion of people in our society, in our nation, in our region, healthier as a consequence of doing more physical activity and exercise and just moving more, that will then have a knock-on impact to the numbers of people suffering from hypokinetic diseases, and therefore a knock-on impact to the numbers of people being treated for those diseases. And so although it is a few steps down the line, you can see how improvement in overall health in a group of people, in a nation or in a region, will reduce the burden of healthcare for those people in that region, who obviously pay for that through their taxes, generally speaking. So an economic benefit of exercise is that we can reduce the overall burden of healthcare and the overall cost of healthcare. It's not going to stop it. People will still get ill, of course, but it just means the total amount of ill health in a proportion in a population will be lower, and that's only going to be a beneficial thing in terms of healthcare costs and healthcare burdens. One more area that's benefited by exercise is the psychological. So from a psychological point of view, at the individual level, we have improvements in things like mood as a consequence of engaging in physical activity. So there's loads and loads of research that shows this link very clearly, that as we engage in physical activity, as we play, as we fight, as we score goals, whatever it might be, just as we participate with other people in some kind of physical endeavor, our mood is improved. And over time, hopefully, that can have a long-term impact rather than just an improvement on mood in just that moment. So it has a knock-on impact in terms of levels of stress. Stress levels can be, depends on what sport we're playing and in what way we're playing it, and I suppose, and levels of frustration and so on. But generally speaking, physical activity, movement, enjoyment, play helps us to de-stress. And so there may be a knock-on impact, therefore, in terms of depression. Now, depression is a term that's widely used and abused to mean all sorts of different things. In this case, let's just use it to mean a general sense of sadness that might occur through life circumstances or through other means. I'm not using it in the clinical sense here, which is a different matter altogether. But depression, in the sense that we commonly use it, of low mood states and so on, can be really helped by exercise. And also there is some evidence, although it's somewhat disputed, there is some evidence that exercise, participation in physical activity, can help us focus in other areas of our lives. So there have been some studies shown with kids doing some exercise at the start of a school day, for example, and then that exercise possibly being the cause of greater focus in other lessons during the rest of the school day. Now that's a little bit disputed, but I'll leave that there for your own study. Hope that's been of benefit to you, thinking about some of the benefits of exercise. The physical benefits are the kind of obvious stuff that we go to, that we gravitate towards first of all, but there's all sorts of other social, economic and psychological benefits. Don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care for now.